I think one of the interesting things about being a Black American is that part of it is what you get from where you were born, where your parents were from, then you go back to grandparents and great-grandparents and so on and so forth. And at some point, depending on how well those records are kept, you're dealing with the imaginary. And I think as an artist coming of age at the time that I did, it's been an ongoing puzzle being put into place of how much is real, how much is fabricated, how much is imagined, how much is satisfyingly true or unsatisfyingly dishonest and not true at all. My name is Sanford Biggers, and I'm an artist living and working in Harlem, but originally from Los Angeles, and I'm very proud to be exhibiting BAM for Ivet, Witness, and Psyche at LACMA. I think throughout my career, as influenced as I am by the history of conceptual art and how my work fits into that canon, I'm also equally, if not more, drawn to old school basic formality. I'm making figurative sculptures. I'm going between bronze and marble. I'm doing printmaking. I'm doing painting on antique quilts. I think that is the bedrock of my practice, really, is to use my hands to make things. One of my primary approaches to making work is making power objects. And I call them power objects because typically a power object in many cultures is something that is revered or given certain deferential status and acts as almost a proxy for the metaphysical world. And I think art can do that, and I try to make works that do operate on that level. Psyche was a return to my roots as basically a child learning how to draw, learning how to sketch. So Psyche references Psyche, who was reportedly more beautiful than Venus or Aphrodite herself, and was punished because of that. So the figure in Psyche is literally a proposition of a different type of beauty. The intention behind not giving definitive faces in the Witness piece was because I wanted it to be a question, whether they were activists or just a group of people assembling or some people who might have just met and are looking at the same thing. I wanted the onus to be on the viewer to really dig deep and look into the work and become introspective to a degree to figure out exactly what the relationship is between the large figures, the small figures on the ground, and the viewer themselves. I think it's an evocative title that implies that the viewer could be a witness, the figures on the wall could be a witness, and often if you think of legal proceedings, there's a witness and then there's a jury, and that this is a group of people. Are they in fact witnesses, or are they the jury? Are they judging you as you look at them? But the idea is that they cast a long shadow that creates the shadow form that you see on the wall, or the shimmer form. And I call it a shimmer because that's also borrowing from another power object, the bottle tree that is seen in southern parts of the United States. Bottle trees typically are trees outside of a home where they put empty, colorful bottles on a tree to protect the nearby family from evil spirits. So I wanted to reference that tradition by once again offering something that had a shimmer as a way of warding off evil intention. One of the other pieces in the show is entitled BAM for Ivet. I was very affected by the constant presence of videos of Black people being murdered by law enforcement. My visceral reaction was to take African objects that I had collected from various sources, some of these objects that I personally coveted, and say, now there's time to do something with these that is difficult for myself. It's difficult to make, it's challenging work, but this is a challenging experience that speaks to our very unique United States pathological, dysfunctional race relationship. So I started to take those figures and I would dip them in wax to further obscure them so they were non-identifiable, and take them to a shooting range and sculpt them with different caliber weapons. During the sculpting process, I didn't personally pull the trigger. I wanted to avoid over-aestheticizing using these unorthodox tools. The other part was then to take the remnant pieces and cast them in bronze And I named each one of those figures after a victim of police brutality, so that they become small effigies and power objects themselves. And this goes back to the tradition of making a power object. It only becomes a power object because of the use and the way it was wrought in the first place. So by casting them in bronze, it almost makes them eternal. I think working with all of these different materials is really a way of speaking to the human experience. Of course, I think it is obviously influenced by my personal experience through the world, but at the end of the day, what I'm striving to create is a patchwork that could be read or experienced by many different cultures with many different interpretations.